Okay. Well, all aboard. Let us get ourselves together and get our start off the ground. So, once again, as we dive into the breach, I want to thank you all for coming for this session. It always means so much to me. I am literally the number one fan of Soup City Sins. And this is Soup City Sins, Season 5, Episode 6, the season finale, Quid Enim Pugnare. When we last left our coterie, when we last left the shelter, they had stared down a wild and willing to violence group of anarchs. They had rescued the sheriff, Damien. They made him aware as to how deep and duplicitous and dangerous the depths of the enemies aligned against them are, starting with the very real fact that Clyde had a vision of the three happiness at the anchor of Chinatown, the entrance, the mouth of horror for a lot of people, that Hestia has survived a direct assassination attempt at the hands of the third strongest and most powerful of Tremere. Lucio has come to grips with the fact that Laura Blakeney, the monster that had ended his mortal life and taken him from his family, friends, and allies into this world of the damned, her corpse, her body, has been stolen. Questions abound. Dizzy has been made aware that the political machinations of the kindred in Chicago is a multiplicity of madness, interweaved and entangled with all sorts of impetus. And Alexander, having stared down the very real monster that exists in his own blood and every other kindred's blood, must find a way through, a path through, that is neither the judgment of fire and brimstone that he had been taught at the hands of his Hakamite sire and associates, but also can't be as blindly naive as he was hoping to be. And Clyde, the very real visions of danger to Dizzy specifically and the coterie at large in Chinatown weighing heavily over his thoughts. So here we are a week later, several personal episodes having taken place, several investigations reaching some semblance of plateauing, and the very real danger that exists in Chinatown being the centerpiece and hanging a shadow of darkness over the coterie's thoughts. So as everyone gathers in the meeting room at the coterie haven, we'll begin with everyone arising. So when you all have the opportunity, go ahead and roll your individual rouse rolls for earlier in the evening. We are roughly, at this point, 4 hours into our evening. Everyone is finally gathered, and beginning with whoever would like to take the first moments, what is our goal for the evening? How are we going to deal with Chinatown?
Take up.
You seem to be breaking up there, Clyde. Sorry.
Oh, no, I just said take up.
Okay.
Well, I guess I should go then. Seeing as how this is kind of my whole plan. So Hestia would look at everybody and take out the envelope that had the reply from Sanjay and basically read them all what it says. So with that being said, and there's a tightening of her jaw because she is trying to control her anger and have been reading this again. I feel like we can use this to our advantage. I feel like I can keep her distracted during this whole knowledge bowl mystical battle thing and give the rest of you time to do your investigations unbothered. The only thing is I'm going to need somebody on my side, hopefully, to be part of my panel. So if any of you feel like you would be a help to me, I would appreciate it. Other than that, I need to find 2 others that are more mystically knowledgeable so that they have my back. I don't really know who I'm going to go to, though, because nobody really at the Chantry House likes me all that much. And I state the only person that seemed to help me in any real reason. So, there's that.
So, what would be required of someone to be part of your panel?
Just like a trivia contest or something?
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of a mix between a debate team, a magical duel, and a cooking show.
Sounds pretty nerdy. I'm out.
I don't think I'd have the magical know-how to participate unless you consider playing with shadows to be the same kind of magic.
No, and I think you'd probably be best with the whole looking up what's going on in Chinatown rather than being with me. And since Clyde is the one that had the vision, he should probably go with you.
Agreed.
Well, in the words of James Brown, I don't know karate, but I know crazy. So I'm down with everything.
So the initial opening gambit is to gather your forces for the Athame. Now, the Athame is no small thing. It is a far kinder, at least visually, far kinder battle of wills, but it really is a battle. To properly describe it, you and your opponent are sealed inside a singular warded area. The panel aligns itself with the 6 points, the 6 pseudo cardinals, and are witness to your ability to sway not only them but your opponent. Each successful feint of knowledge, each successful feint and barb of debate skill results in some mental anguish for the opponent. And while there's not much bloodshed, there's not much vitae spray, the fireworks of a well-coordinated verbal attack are no less damaging to the person who they're inflicted upon. The idea of heading into Chinatown, as you guys have received a few intelligence reports as a group, as a coterie, as the sheriff and deputies of the shelter, you all know that there hasn't been much activity. Chinatown itself hasn't been watched that often, considering that it is effectively a no man's land for the kindred of the tower, even with it being officially the territory of Sun Che. There hasn't been much movement. There hasn't been any sightings of Laura Blakeney or the other 2 that were with her. It's been all quiet on the Western Front, to the point where you could almost say that it's been too quiet. Chinatown is home to many mystical mysteries, from the disappearances of children who reappear a week later, to, some people say, dogs and rats the size of small horses. It is also very much a place that, even just passing through it on the red line, the blood flow gets to going. There's an enlivening and there's an enrichment that should not happen but does. And with those very pressing realities hanging over the fact that Hestia is going to accept a challenge that could very well result in the madness of her and whatever that might entail for the coterie at large, there's a call from the front desk of the shelter. The message, as Hestia puts it on speakerphone. There's some young delivery guy here. Looks like a kid almost.
Do they have a name?
Yeah, David, Daniel, Damien, something like that.
Damien.
I don't know. He seems to. He seems too young to be a real delivery driver.
I'll be down in a moment. So I look at the rest of the coterie. I guess Damien's here, so we should go see what that's about.
I'll come with you.
Okay, so as Lucio and Hestia head downstairs to greet Damien, is there any discussions, any conversations, any other thoughts pertaining to this most recent week? Spending time with family, of getting right with oneself, finding balance, and fighting through the visions of many potential futures. Is there anything that you all would like to discuss with one another while Lucio and Hestia step away?
How'd you guys bring Damien back?
Okay, so while Clyde and Alex settle in downstairs, Damien is standing there in a rough approximation, though nowhere near accurately, a Amazon driver's uniform. It is clear that he is not a delivery driver, though it's just a passing enough resemblance that it's easy to just take it that they hired some independent operator to help. The fact that he's not carrying a package is another sign that he is in fact not a delivery driver. But, you know, you get what you pay for these days. Lucio, Hestia.
Pretty sure you're a little late for Halloween, Damien. What's up?
Well, you want to talk here? You want to talk upstairs? And he looks at your front desk attendant.
I think it would probably be better to head upstairs.
So a quick tour back to the office and upstairs to the meeting room. Damien immediately removes the little yellow hazard vest that he was wearing atop of his runners. People, so here's the situation. G has been keeping watch on the electronic activity. There hasn't been any. She's been keeping watch via cameras in the area, and there hasn't been any sightings of Laura Blakeney or anyone else that is on our little red list. None of her associates, none of her friends and family from Dalton. So if she is there at the the Three Happiness, or whatever that place is called, then she has not moved in over a week. Her not moving could be a good thing, means that she more than likely is not unstaked. Having stood face to face with her, Lucio, you know whether she's strong enough of blood that she'd need more than just an appetizer to get up and moving.
She's got 2 generations on me, so I definitely say that she is more potent of blood.
Yeah, and there hasn't been an uptick in missing persons, nor an uptick of, as far as we can tell, any activity from the blood dealers in the city, which means that with any luck, she is still staked, and we would be able to retrieve her. The only problem being on our end, with everything that I presented Jackson, he wants us as close as off the book as possible, because if the Wolfpack get involved, they will go down and bust heads and make all sorts of noises, making it far more difficult to cover up. So we need a way in that's quiet, or quieter.
Hestia was actually discussing that just before you got here.
Well, you know, timing. Day late and $1 short.
Hess, would you care to share the plan with him?
Well, Damien, what do you know about the SMA?
The what?
Okay, it's a Tremere thing. It's basically a battle of wits that results in physical pain if you lose, and you might just drive you mad. But Sunshay tricked me, whatever you want to call it, into having one against her, so I'm going to use that as a cover for the rest of the coterie to go in and investigate. while I have her distracted. The only problem is I need 3 people on my side to be my judges, backup, whatever you want to consider there. So that's the only thing I'm having a problem with, narrowing down who I can trust and invite to do so, while leaving the rest of the coterie free to investigate and do what they need to do. So, yeah, there's that.
Looking dead at Dizzy, Damien asks, could you set up a meeting?
With the Gary folk?
Yes.
Absolutely. They would be delighted to hear from you.
They're not officially Tower. In fact, they're complete opposite to Tower. So if they were to accidentally present a problem at the Three Happiness, which is not specifically Tower territory, thanks to Jax's negotiations, it could fall on them if there's any noise.
Do you want me to bring them in as a diversion?
Well, the more irons in the pot, the better chance we'll get a sword worth using out of this, i.e. we make off with Blakeney and her 2 associates. The Anarchs maybe get an opportunity to sit down and speak with me. Hesha gets her chance to give Sun Chips her one-up comeuppance, and we get away without actually having cause any real problems, because if Sun Chips is as crazy as Hestia says, being violated by Anarch should be just a trigger she needs for Hestia to definitively win, for us to make it out of there with Blakeney, and for nobody's fingers to actually be dirty enough where there could be repercussions to follow.
You know, they probably want something in return. What if I dial the phone and hand it to you?
Think that I have the gift of gab enough to convince them over the phone, then sure. I thought that was more your thing. You get them there for a sit down with me while we help out Hestia being part of her panel, while you and Lucio sneak through the shadows to find Blakeney.
Oh, see, I thought you meant that they were going to show up and you weren't going to be there. Okay, if you're going to be there, that's fine. Whatever else happens is, a circumstance, I guess.
It's just a thought. If you guys think that you can make this work, then I'm all for it. Partially because it sounds good to me right now. 3 birds, 1 huge stone. Hopefully anybody that's left is just us.
Where do you want them to meet you then?
Tessia, when is your duel with Sun Chips?
She told me I can pick a date and a place. So I have yet to answer her, but it can happen in a night.
Okay. Let's make it happen. Let's get this win for our team. Let's win one for the Gipper. Let's get the good guys a tally mark on the victory column. So tomorrow night is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would need tonight to send her the message back so that we can set everything up. I also need time to study, oddly enough, and bolster my own knowledge just in case. And then to the people that we pick as panel need time to get themselves together and be available. So tomorrow night would be perfectly fine. But like I said, we just need to give them notice. So we can prepare everything tonight for tomorrow night. Are we doing it in Chinatown, or should I lure her away from Chinatown?
What do you all say?
I mean, away is probably good. If she realizes something's going on, at least that buys us some time to get out of Dodge.
That's kind of what I was figuring. Now I just need to figure out an advantageous or neutral place for the both of us so that it doesn't seem like I'm setting her up, even though I'm setting her up.
Hey, have you ever been to the basement of the Succubus Club?
Oh, God. Don't remind me.
I'm sure old Genghis wouldn't mind if you all just showed up and had your little duel there.
Doesn't sound like the worst idea to me.
It would explain why 30 anarchs are there.
Yeah, it would.
Oh my god. The look on his face would be so great.
It also, I was hoping to not have to grant them the protections of an Elysium, but any port in a storm, so fine.
I mean, is the basement technically part of the club?
It very much is. You know, Houdini used to do presentations down there.
I don't know. I watched a whole bunch of dudes swing their dicks around and hit each other all night the 2 times I was there. So.
Sounds just about perfect for Houdini's normal crowd.
I mean, it was just a thought because I don't like thinking.
No one does, but unfortunately, as long as he's smart enough to only be seen in Elysium, there's not much we can actively do. And of course, he breaks the peace first. Alright, so tomorrow night, Succubus Club, I'll rally the other hounds and our scourge. Let's say 10 o'clock.
That's agreeable to me. Which of you are standing on my side?
Looks like you guys have some decisions to make. I'll leave you to it. 10 o'clock tomorrow night. I'll get everybody else there.
Hey, Damien, real quick, thought I'd ask and check. How is your eyesight doing right now? Any notable issues?
I don't think we really want to have this conversation just yet.
I totally understand.
Be seeing you guys. And he has to leave. Seems as if he's memorized far more than he should have as regards to you guys' haven. So as he leaves, and you all make plans, what are those plans?
Well, Dizzy probably needs to hunt. I don't know about what anybody else is going to do. But...
I may be able to get in without any one of us getting in, so all we need to do is intercept somebody that's coming in and out of that place.
Hestia, who would be your first choices as to, people on your team?
Well, if I have any thoughts to it, I believe Erecto is going to be on Sunshade's side, if I had to guess, because they're pretty much inseparable most of the time. Otherwise, I'd ask her to be on my side. I might be able to get Deuceable, but I don't know whether that be bias or... I don't know. That might be a harder pull.
How much do you want to bet he's going to use this as leverage to try and get you into the chantry?
I'm almost sure he's going to, but what he doesn't realize is I was already planning on going back before the whole Sylvia thing, and then now I have even more reason to go back. But I can drag it out a little bit and make him sweat.
Hey, I have no idea how any of this works, but is it possible for you to, cheat? Because if you could cheat, I would do that.
Oh, that's why I'm using tonight to study, because I'm going to look for things that might help me. But, it's mostly based on knowledge. And I have knowledge from multiple people that she might not have access to. So I'm going to bank on that.
Well, theoretically, couldn't you just make a whole lot of bullshit up?
No, that I can't do. There's actually magic involved in actual rites and rituals that would keep bullshit from being useful.
I guarantee you there's a way to cheat. We just haven't thought of it yet.
Hey, do you think Forcipules will lend you a hand?
There you go.
Like you did with our little research into the Cappadocians? Or the
Well,
Hekata now.
I think all the wizards can see dead people.
Actually, yes, a fair amount of us can, because they sometimes use them for nefarious means, which is also kind of why I didn't want to be part of the Chantry House, because they use ghosts as servants, and I don't quite believe in that, but it is what it is.
All right. So, plans laid. The best sort of plans laid. Completely and totally up in the air plans laid. There is a decision that must be made in regards to who's going where. But otherwise, you guys are predominantly prepared mentally for what tomorrow night might bring, correct?
Sure.
Pretty much. So that's what I'm gonna probably Hestia's night is gonna look like. She's gonna kind of send me missive that states tomorrow 10 o'clock at the Succubus Club. That this battle is going on. She doesn't name her panel yet. Leaving it as a surprise to Sunshay. But in the meantime, she's going to reach out to who she can, Crucible and Erecto, just to see for sure which side Erecto is going to be on, and try to find maybe 2 others to help her out.
So,
Has anybody staked out the Chinese place?
If you want to do that, I can help with that. Unless the meeting with was the meeting with Salt supposed to happen within this time?
it was.
Then I'd probably have to prioritize that.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stake out the place and then see what happens tomorrow.
Okay. So that we are of a understanding, Clyde is heading to the Three Happiness tomorrow evening to get tonight, this evening, and tomorrow evening as a forward scout as to what could take place, so to get a better idea as to what's going on at the Three Happiness. Alexander, where in this chain of events is he placing himself? And Dizzy is hunting this evening and making arrangements with the Anarchs to meet Damien at the Succubus tomorrow evening. Hestia is seeking for allies amongst the Tremere and willing to stand off against another Tremere alone at the Succubus. Lucio is meeting a Nosferatu to exchange funds to arrange a meeting with Monica. Is that roughly accurate?
Yeah, so Lucio, do you think your special friend, can he lend a hand?
Which special friend?
Oh, the pimp guy, the fancy man.
Blue?
Well, I don't know his name, but I remember. I'm guessing.
That depends. Blue, I know that our deal technically means I'm supposed to keep you around for all eternity, but is it possible for a one-day exception that you can help Clyde? You get to see some fancy new areas.
Yeah, man, although it's not really as fancy as you think it is, but sure, yeah, let's do that. Let me hang out with all of them.
Alright.
But you know, nothing happens for free.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
Look, I know you already want...
I have a 20. I can give you another 20 after.
Yeah. 20 years, open access, me, you.
What? Okay, 5.
All right. Then we got a deal. 5 years, open access.
You better word it. You better be wealthy.
So does that mean I have to give him the coin for now?
Oh no, we have a deal. And as you say, well, no, 5, and you hear Blue speaking, Clyde, suddenly there is a very 80s style gentleman with the 80s big glasses and shoulder pads, dressed for a night out on the town, standing in front of you. Now all you have to do is shake on it.
Alright. Just remember that I can try to bitch with you.
Ain't gonna be much of that, now is there? And as you shake his hand, suddenly there's a coin there, although it's not a coin that you recognize because it's been so many years since you've seen one. There is a full price CTA bus token stamped with Chicago Transit Authority on one side and stamped on the other with a building that you have never seen but looks like the sort that would be in Montpelier or Washington DC or some other state or county capital.
Alright, I hope you like cameras because there's a lot of those when I in my line of work.
Oh, we ain't gotta worry about all that. Although I am a damn good looking son of a bitch, aren't I? He said.
Well, better. No, you're no Idris Elba, but
You got jokes. Let's see what's cracking. And he slowly fades from view. And Clyde, for the first time that you can remember, it feels as if you're suddenly heavier, as if there's a little less room inside that boundless, infinite cavern that is the inside of his mind, his thoughts, his spaces where all the voices hide.
well, one more. One less. Who's counting? Alright guys, so if I don't see you tomorrow, you know where to find me.
Alright.
Would I have gotten a new burner set up by then?
Sure, let's say that you have.
Well, then I'm going to make sure that everybody has the number for the burner. Everybody here
Okay.
has the number for the burner. And then as Clyde's leaving, please stay in touch and don't meet anybody, please.
No, wasn't planning to.
You know what they say, those who don't plan to succeed are merely planning to fail. And as you make your way towards Chinatown, Clyde, Alexander, with everything that's been happening over the last several weeks, months, days, what in the course of these happenings is Alexander's plan?
He still has to figure out the Akashic. That's still something that's unresolved. But man, things just keep stacking up. It's just one thing after another with this coterie. All right.
Most assuredly.
Yeah. So since tasks for the coterie keep queuing up, instead of waiting 100 years to try to get assistance with this, he's gonna go ahead and try to stake out by himself, like scout out the source that he found out from the library, the source of these attacks on the temple again, and then try to get back in time to get to Chinatown when that operation goes down. Unless that's going down right now?
Nope. Clyde is heading out to scout out the three happiness. And will be
Yeah.
there in a forward position for whoever's going to head in that direction the next night.
Yeah, then for now I'm gonna try to scout out the Akashic Brotherhood.
Okay. And Dizzy, Having reconnected with Dale, having had the initiative placed firmly in her lap to make a connection with the Anarchs for the next night, what are Dizzy's plans?
She's gonna go out and get a bite to eat. She'll call the number that I can't remember the girl's name gave her from Gary to set up the sit down for the next night, as we talked about, and then she'll probably spend some time with Vivi.
Okay. And Hestia? It's just making sure everybody has Hestia's new main number and having sent her missive to Sunche. What are her plans besides attempting to study for the evening?
The first message, clean room first. She's going to go to the clean room. Not making that mistake again. And the first message is to Erecto, and she's going to ask, so I know you know what's probably going on, and just wondering, are you on her panel or are you free? And if you're free, would you be on my side? And then sends a similar message to Deuceable with also, I realize we have to talk. I want to come home. And then waits for a reply.
Okay. To be so kind as to go ahead and roll your manipulation and persuasion for me. Tell me how many results, how many successes you net. And while you're taking care of that, reaching out to DeSabo and Eric, so Lucio, knowing that you need to meet with make a drop, have you managed to have enough liquid funds to make that a possibility and agreed upon a price, or how much are you attempting to offer?
Before I answer that question, I want to clarify something.
Mm-hmm.
When you say liquid funds, are we talking like just liquid cash, or are you talking liquid funds like blood?
Cash.
Okay.
Though a good vintage also counts as cash too, considering most people have an idea as to how much a blood bag is actually worth.
I was thinking of offering one of the bottles, either from my personal stash or from the consignment, as part of the payment.
One of your bottles. Not, you're speaking of your standard vintage or the reserved?
Standard. The reserved is reserved for one particular customer, at least for the moment.
Okay, well then your standard, the standard liter-sized bottle that you were attempting to use would have 4. So that is literally $6,000 worth of profit there, potentially. Is that what the cost that you're saying the information she could deliver would be worth?
Sure.
Okay. Well, with such a very nice, hefty tip, you definitely would sway a learned kindred. And checking the chat site that you were on with Salt and G and Hurricane previously, you realize that she has chosen a very easy to get to and easy to get out of location. There is a 24-hour laundromat on just off Morse and the Red Line. It's just east of the Morse Red Line stop. The parking lot is well lit. It's huge. There's multiple ways in out of the laundromat, and most importantly, they have their own cameras set up in the place because they are open so late and not necessarily the best of locations. And while you attend to your meeting, Dizzy, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your hunting roll for me, please? And Alexander, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits and investigations? Clyde, would you be so kind as to roll your wits, larceny, and aspects. And while those rolls are happening, has you managed to make contact with both Erishiel and Dusable? Neither of them can actively be a part of your panel because of their position within the clan as a whole. They can't take sides. It wouldn't quite be above board if they did. You'd automatically have sway with any panel worth note having either of them on your side, which works in your benefit as well because that means that Sunche also cannot use them as portions of her panel. Unfortunately, that leaves quite a few opportunities for her to have people who are decidedly swayed against you on her panel. Dusable does extend a offer. You don't have to duel anyone. If you were to return to the flock tonight, we can cancel the duel. We can stop it for you.
Now, thinking to herself, because that might mess up the plans for everybody tomorrow if she accepts. The question that mostly she's thinking of is, how would this make me look? If I tuck tail and run and hide under Dusable's robes, am I going to be entering back into the chantry in a place of strength or cowardice?
Politically, strength. Socially, weakness. But the only thing that would differ from accepting a position back into the chantry now or later is that the duel wouldn't have to happen, and moving back into the chantry as a whole, moving back into the clan structure as a whole without winning a duel, without winning the Athame, without having one of the higher members of the chantry, i.e. the regent and co-regent, put a kibosh on any duel. You won't have any political currency either way. And you'll have less political currency and less social currency if Sunche were to win, because her reputation is one of insanity. She does have more strength than she knows what to do with, and is clearly a violently insane member of the Chantry, barely held together by the efforts of Dusable and Erichstone. So if you do not win, you will be in a lower social position as well as a lower political position.
That's a lot to think about, because it almost seems like it would be better to take the chance to go back tonight. And since she's all healed up, I'm less worried about her being attacked or being able to hold off an attack. Yeah, but then there's still the fact that it would mess up the plans we just set up for tomorrow, unless there's a way around that and just not telling Sunshade that it was canceled. Would that be a possibility if she messages Dusable back agreeing to going back tonight, but asking that he not tell Sunshade till the next night?
But would Bissacans go ahead and roll your intelligence and etiquette? And while that's happening, this hunting has never been an issue, and you have spent too many years on the road hunting in all sorts of interesting places with interesting people, living the very reality of the Mandarin curse of may you live in interesting times. There is a considerable weight of fear that has never been prevalent in your hunting. spending the previous couple of nights with Dale, you realize that his firm, the reason why he's contemplating leaving, is that he is being blackmailed. Well, the firm is being blackmailed, and he has the predominant amount of keys to the kingdom, the information that is being used to blackmail the founders of the firm he is a part of. The reason why he's looking for other gainful employment. He has received no fewer than 4 threats against him. Nothing so crass as a direct statement, but little things like his car having 2 flat tires, or his office suddenly being unlocked without him having given permission or keys to anyone. The janitorial staff of the building saying they just saw him leave before he got to work. The fact that his next door neighbor was beaten within an inch of his life. And from a distance, he and his neighbor could be all but twins. Same build, same height, similar cars. If you didn't pay attention to make, even a similar work schedule. It's the reason why the only regularity in his schedule is his once a week meetings with his coworkers out at the bar. He randomizes his entire schedule as much as he possibly can. So hunting now brings thoughts of Dale and who might be in his shadow very much the conscious thought. Because just as easy as it is for you to lure mortals into your embrace, there's someone toying with your brother.
All right, well, that's going to stop, but first I need some food.
Your victim of the evening is a very handsome, very lovely individual. They are they're from Antioch. They spend most of their time in the city because they are theater major. They are tall and athletic and are easily swayed with a little bit of an appeal to their vanity. So you exit the restroom of the Uptown Martini Bar with them swooning away in the restroom.
All right, well, I will take enough to leave him unconscious, and I will drop that old lingering kiss on him. There's no time like the present to start building a herd since I'm stuck here.
All right, sounds like a plan. And as you pass along the most addictive version of the kiss possible, your phone vibrates as you exit the restroom. It's Mama Dear. She simply asks, "Dale told me, ? Meaning, is it accurate? Is it valid? Is her little bird back in town?"
I will just let that sit for a little bit. I gotta think about how to appropriately respond to that.
Yes. Mama Disick is no small matter and is almost as discerning as Dizzy is smart of lip. So as those thoughts settle themselves and you find out how to best to respond and what steps to take, considering the idea of actually remaining in the City of the Winds, in Chirac, in Chicago, in Chi-Town, there's a lot. There's a lot of a lot. And while a lot is flowing through Dizzy's mind, Clyde, you have been in worse positions. You can't remember when, but you know you've been in worse positions. If Blue would stop talking and remarking on the dress and the flexibility of every man and woman that passes you, things would be a little easier. But of all the 100 voices in your head, he is by far the most real, the most engaging, and the one who you seem to have even less control over. The fact that every time he speaks, the token that's in Clyde's pocket heats up a little bit. There's a marked difference between it and everything else that Clyde has on. Even when he puts it in his outside jacket pocket, you can still feel the heat of it. Every time Blue says, "Oh my God, check out the legs on that one there. Oh my God, you should probably talk to her right there. Oh, but him, look at those thigh muscles. You'd think that he has those pants specially made. Oh my God." And that cab driver, you know that they got the, I don't want to, be too crass, but all that sitting gives that core a lot of work. Him being loud and as crass as that plus 100% more distracts you from the realities of what you're here to do, which is to scope out the three happiness. It is busy. The foot traffic alone is enough to make sure that this place clearly is in the upward hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit per year. Its size being 2 stories and half a block long is another matter entirely.
This is my idea. I'm gonna try to find like a second store window or something like that. I'm guessing I have like a camera, and then try to stake out with aspects to see if there are vampires and ghouls.
Well, you can always guess that the people entering in are vampires, but then again, being night would give you the same complexion. So from a distance, without getting up close and checking each person, discerning vampires or kindred who are not being monstrous is very nearly impossible. But yes, there are tons and tons of people moving about the place. The staff alone clearly numbers in the low to mid 40s, just in terms of people that actually work there. Then you mix in the several ever-changing, easily 100 or so couples and groups that move in and out of the restaurant. It's not a slow place at all. In your investigations, i.e. having made it inside, because it's really easy, it is a relatively public place, you realize that there is a bustle and a hustle that separates it from nearly every other restaurant near it. Being where it is at the mouth of Chinatown, well, the southeast mouth of Chinatown, it is steps away from the Red Line station. It is literally one of the first things you see when you enter into Chinatown. It is right next door to the main open air square where the various 12 astrological signs have their own statuary, where the banner that says "Welcome to Chinatown" is clearly within the image of any picture you might want to take of the front door of the place. And welcome to your particular vantage and ability to see beyond is the fact that there is a ebb and flow of not only the living but the recently departed, recently being within the last 10 years, last 20 years, last 100 years, who move through the streets. You can literally almost reach out and touch the bulk of them. There's a swath of population that don't realize that they are no longer in the land of living, and they have no problem stopping to ask various questions of you in Mandarin, or Szechuan, or Hunan, or Han, or various other Chinese dialects that you have no inclination as to what it may or may not mean, except for the fact that they're not living.
Okay. So, can I use an obfuscate? I'm gonna try to catch the eye of some vampire or ghoul that's around here.
You're going to try to.
So basically, walking in front of them with obfuscate, and then catching their eyes. And then I'm gonna use share the senses.
So, okay. Alright, so the very stunt-like maneuver that you're attempting because once you attempt to reach out and affect the world around you by using one of your other disciplines, your obfuscate is going to bleed away. You're literally going to pop out of thin air in front of someone. It's your plan.
Oh, really?
Yes, to ambush them with an attempt to.
No, in that case, I'm just gonna bump into somebody like vampire-like or ghoul-like.
Okay.
Just like casually bump into them in the middle of the street.
Okay. So in that case, let me open up my cheat sheet here for share the senses and various other sundry kindred abilities. One quick second here. I need to start putting these things in alphabetical orders.
So I only need to be in line of sight unless it's somebody I don't know, and they can resist. Or well, they cannot resist, but they can be aware they are being ridden with sense the unseen, and we can resolve versus with some resolve roll to resist.
Well, you really won't have to worry about that, considering that most of the people that are out here are either ghosts, spirits, or mortals predominantly. While you're looking for someone who's ghoul-like or at least has access, the luck of that will come down to the result of your die roll here, which is going to be your resolve plus your aspects. Let me know what your results are. And while that roll is happening, Alexander, detective work was never in your forte. Avenging, defending, and occasionally doing a little bit more assassinating is well within your wheelhouse. It is like putting on a well-worn, well-used glove. It would fit absolutely perfectly. The investigation portion of that, the scouting human nature, the ability to follow and perceive is a little outside the pale. However, fate seems to be on your side. Carefully following the clues and details that he had already at his disposal as to where these Akashic might associate with information that he gleaned from Cronus du Temps and from his good friend the Abbot, he finds himself in front of a dojo on Western Avenue and Armitage. It is a smallish dojo. It's not as ornate nor as well loved as Cronus's place in Printer's Row. And it's not nearly even as nice as his abbot's temple. It, however, is repugnantly skilled, filled with skilled individuals. As he stands outside, watching as the students conduct all sorts of aerobatic maneuvers that shouldn't be pulled off from a standing position. There is a semblance of respect. There's several 180-degree spinning kicks. There's several cartwheeling maneuvers. There's a all but floating, looking like 100-hand slap happening. There's in the far back corner, you see 3 students engaged in a 3-way sparring session with sais, which clearly are not practiced weapons at all. Because even from outside the building, you watch as their hands and bodies speed into motion, each defending and countering, each flowing very much like the idea of water raging and fierce, moving from quiet stillness to violent tsunami-like dervishes. What, in fact, is Alexander's plan of action?
So clearly very physically capable. All of them, almost like that's the whole point. Is there any sparring going on?
There very much is. But the three in the back with the size are just a portion of what's taking place. There are katas, which don't exactly seem like any katas that he'd recognize, but clearly, because it's just exercise, it's just practicing maneuvers. It is moving from one to the next in preparation for actual combat. There are also several groups of students who are engaging in throws, joint locks, and various other sparring maneuvers, practicing to hurt, kill, and maim with their abilities, if push came to shove.
I see. Do I see any of these sparring sessions begin? So I can understand how they initiate?
Yes. I mean, there's one starting now. There are two students. One is clearly in their mid to late 50s. The other is somewhere considerably younger, maybe early 20s. There's a quick nod. Neither takes their eye off the other. There's a blur of motion as the 50-year-old launches. The 20-year-old counters. And the battle, because that's what it is. These sparring contests that you're watching, they're not for show. They're not for a tournament. These are people who are, for all intents and purposes, look as if they're trying to literally do their abject best to seriously injure their partner. Though their partners, who they tend to face off with, seem to be as equally skilled or more so in defending. Each person is giving it their all. You can hear and see the efforts of their actions. There's free-flowing sweat. There's impact sounds, even standing outside. And there's the fact that they're moving far faster than one would expect for any attempt at anything but actual combat.
All right, I think I have a, as always, questionable, maybe a little impulsive plan, but I am going to see if I can initiate a sparring competition with one of these to assess the average physical capability of this general group.
So you just head into the dojo and say, "Hey, you big guy. Hey, you little guy," or how do you approach the idea? Because once you walk into the dojo, of course, eyes look in your direction, but no one goes out of their way to greet you. On the far back wall, which is almost invisible from the window, is a little old lady. And by little and old, I mean she's barely 4'6", and old enough physically, from what you can see, to be in her mid-70s, maybe early 80s. And she's sitting on one of the tatami at the far back of the dojo.
I'm just gonna try to nod casually but respectfully as I go through and I guess make my way to this woman since she seems to stand out so much, and ask her, so this is quite the place. What kind of operation you guys got set up here? Or
you really should take off your shoes. It's disrespectful to walk into tatami with your shoes on.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to take off my shoes and put them over by the door. Because I did not quite notice walking in that nobody was wearing shoes. And like you said, not the detective type.
No, not in his wheelhouse. When you walk back across the floor, you actually begin to take in the fact that not only have eyes settled on you, but you're being tracked by most of the students in the dojo. Most of the students, make way or set themselves up as paths of intercept, but they don't actually do anything. You can see the slowing down of some of the sparring sections, the katas being brought to a close. You see those, the three that were practicing with their size, slow to a stop And when he walks back across after dropping off his shoes, you notice that most of them begin lining up or taking rows as they watch and move more in his path between him and the door. And as that's happening, Lucio, what is it with publicly lit bright places that attracts kindreds of all sorts? Everyone's all thinking worse from each other when they meet. Unlike most movies you've watched growing up, unlike most of the dead drops that Novak uses, and they're not the only ones, but unlike most of the places that the average humankind person sets up these meetings with kindred, it's always somewhere brightly lit. It's somewhere usually with mirrors or someplace where there's lots of potentialities of cameras or people seeing. And this is no different. You'd expect secret meetings to be conducted in places that are dark and out of the way and easily missed. Nope. Almost every meeting you've had with other kindred has been in bright, well-lit public places.
If I didn't know any better, I'd think they're setting up specifically for me, the La Sombra. The person that doesn't show up on cameras, doesn't have a reflection, and whose whole thing is shadows, not light.
Yeah. And with that thought filtering through the noise of the world and what's laying ahead of you, there's a memory as you step off the elevator and Simone and Hestia and Julius were heading toward the elevator with Cameron in tow. The madness and fear that escaped Newberry as he leaped and pounced as if you were, instead of a lamb or a goat left out to slaughter, another wild thing, something that could elicit that very real supernatural fear that people feel when walking through certain cemeteries or when hunting big cats.
That fateful night that started all this.
Salt, surprisingly, is not late. The only reason why you know that it's Salt or suspect that it's Salt is, well, you are a detective. You are an investigator. And having spent the last week making contact and doing all the things necessary to get the opportunity to speak with someone who would direct you to Monika, the one thing that anyone who has ever met Salt has remarked on is that stupid sweater, that stupid hoodie with the X's on it. And there's a figure at the back of the laundromat wearing a black sweater with red X's on it. The hood is pulled up and you can't see their face, but there they are. They're about 5'6", 5'7" on the thin side, sitting with their back to the rest of the laundromat, looking at a phone.
I have the bottle of blood that I plan to gift to him in what essentially looks like a wine, like a paper bag that you would put a wine bottle in. And I simply walk over and sit right next to him.
He is a kid of roughly 22, 23. He's wearing sunglasses. On the phone is that stupid chat site and app that you have been speaking with Salts on earlier in the week. And the guy looks at you. Centipede?
Salt?
No, Salt's on the phone. And he slides the phone across to you.
I take the phone.
The app that's in play shimmers and switches as the phone kind of starts to react negatively towards your touch. But you didn't expect Salt to have such a very feminine and melodic voice. It's clear that Salt has the voice of someone who either sings a lot or that's auto-tuned. And it doesn't sound robotic. It sounds like their actual voice. Hey, I don't do face-to-face meetings with people who are not part of the family. This is Troy. He's my thing. I don't want to call him a person because that makes things, what I do to him, even worse. But I'm sure you understand.
Sorry, I just realized muted. Right. And I hand the phone back to the guy and I say, you know what, I think maybe it'd be better if you hold this while we talk.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, man. And he holds the phone and tilts it so that the camera's kind of facing you, but there's no video on the call, so he's just kind of, I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'm just gonna hold it like this. Yeah, so you want to meet the zealot, the old man. That can be arranged. He's told me a little bit, and I'm not against making a little extra cash. What do you bring in trade?
I pull out the bottle that I brought and I read off the vintage on it.
Ooh, look at you. All right, well, I guess for that price, I could go ahead and, lay things out for you. I was gonna roll you. Troy here is a black belt. Of course, most people are when they buy them from Walmart. So I won't do that. But Monica really doesn't want to see you. I convinced him to come meet you and hang out for a price, and I gotta share this with him. But he kind of got like real bad hurt feelings, and actually anyway. So Monica's actually a block away from where you are right now. If you give me 10 minutes, I'll reach out to him, and you guys can meet tonight if that's your thing. Otherwise, we can set up a time and a place later. Which would you prefer?
Out of character, the meeting is, or the going to Chinatown's the next night, right? Or is that tonight?
That's the next night.
Next night. All right, then I tell him, let's meet tonight.
All right. Give me 10 minutes, but there's a Ethiopian restaurant just off of Farwell. That's where he's at right now. I'll let him know you're on your way. And you get there quick before he changes his mind, and I have to set something else up. I'm not going to cheat you this time, but normally I would, just out of principle.
Ah, yes, I understand. Thank you, I appreciate this.
Thank you. Wow, I never get that too often. Okay, cool. You're welcome. Don't fuck this up.
I'll do my best not to.
Troy takes the bottle, slips it into his hoodie, and just hits in. And stands and stares at you for a second like he's gonna say something, but then shakes his head and walks out.
Well, time to get going.
So the Ethiopian joint, the Ethiopian restaurant uses a pun name. The ad is. It's dark-ish lit. It's a place where couples would go for dates. And strangely enough, even as out of place as he looks, you gotta admit that it's far more comfortable than being in all the other places. And he stops what he's doing, which if you didn't know any better, you would swear that he's actually eating. Kindred don't do that. The average kindred doesn't. And as you square the thought of watching another kindred eat Ethiopian food with his fingers, we shift away. So having received the information from Dusabo Hestia that it would be unfair and the offer being extended, you know that unfortunately, by the fact that they are willing to play fair even with Sun Che, that they would not set her up for failure. They wouldn't give a more opportunity for her to look foolish. They'd simply say that due to Hestia actively rejoining the Chantry, that until you and she are of a level in regards to which circle you guys have reached, that any dueling would be unfair. Which means very much Sun Che would be aware as to the duel being canceled.
I come up with another thought. I can still accept with Dusable and not ruin the plans, even though it wouldn't be a duel. I send her a second missive. I write a second missive, to invite her to an armistice or ceasefire at the Succubus instead of the duel, because once I accept, it's kind of, like you said, they can't cancel. They can cancel it and it wouldn't be helpful, but if I can still keep her attention and still keep her where we can see her, it's still going to help the rest of them. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to write a second missive. Reply to Deuceable, I'll be there in 20 minutes, meet me outside. And and write the missive, but not send it until I go meet with Deuceable. And then I'll send it out once I'm done meeting with Deuceable. I'm gonna prepare myself by going upstairs. I'm going to, because we still have some of the leftover blood from the night that we had the visitors. I'm going to make sure that I'm not hungry. When I rolled my rouse check, I didn't get any hungrier. I'm just gonna make sure I stay at that 1 hunger. And I'm going to dress appropriately for visiting the Chantry House. Long skirts in shades of blue and black, do my makeup, and put, I guess, ringlets in my hair, whatever. Do my natural curls, and pack my blade. So, yeah. And I'm going to text the group, meeting with Deuceable about tomorrow. I'm not going to tell them that it's canceled just yet.
Okay. The ride down to the High Park Chantry, lots of things are going through Hester's mind. Predominantly the fact that in the last 40 years, roughly, she's been inside the Chantry House 5 times. 5. She's been to the main Chantry roughly 5 times in the last 40 years. Doesn't seem like all that much, because it's not. There are members of the clan that have never been anywhere but the main Chantry House. There are members that have not been given the honor nor respect to be on their own. Yet she's known nothing else but. It's like taking a doctoral student and sending them back to grade school. It seems oppressive. The idea of having to raise one's hand to go use the bathroom. The idea of having to be guided through lessons instead of, doing a quick lecture. Being assigned worksheets and homework, it seems somehow confining. Seems as if some facet, the idea of it is just anathema to her. She has spent the last bulk of the entirety of her existence as a kindred predominantly studying at her own pace, predominantly making her own way in the world, predominantly relying on solely no one else but herself. Sure, Karen was there initially, and Karen had followed all the necessary steps of introduction and make sure that she was a known quantity. But, perfectly honest, even in having spent time with Julius, there's an immediate difference, an immediate foundational divergence in the way that Hestia taught and learned versus any other member of her clan, any other member of the Chantry. And it seems as if all of that's coming due now. Because when she gets to the Chantry House, she's not met outside by Dusable or Erichto or any other member of the upper-ranking members of the Chantry. Instead, there are 3 neophytes, 3 newly, hopefully emergent members of the Chantry, standing in blue and gold robes. They very much look like the sorts who, in an old school Baptist church, would be the deacons, making sure that the church moves and operates without having any of the respect and acclaim as the pastor. Still notable enough to be members of the church and good standing officers, as it were, but no one of any real note. They're the deacons. They help you to your seat. They pass the plate. They occasionally cook a few meals here and there and watch over the children. They're not part of the clergy. Unlike most secure buildings, they don't pat her down or anything like that. They just escort her right on in. She's led into the back office where private conversations happen amongst the chantry as a whole when they're called to the principal's office, basically. And inside are Dusable, Aristo, Sun Che, and several other ranking members of the chantry.
Does this feel like a trap?
Well, the last time Hestia was alone with any member of the chantry, she almost died. Would it feel like a trap to her?
Probably a little bit. There's still there's probably some apprehension. The fists start to clench. She's starting to pull on that sense of I need to be ready. And meanwhile, still walking like she has no care in the world, walking like she's walking like she's a boss, like, okay, so I'm back, and that confidence, but at the same time in the back of her head she is whispering to Karen in her head, I hope this was the right thing.
The voices of the past, the voices of Karen, the voice of Myers, even the very tossed off, far too blithe voice of Simone leaves her. The very last time that Hestia was in the presence of another member of the Chantry House by herself, she nearly died. The only reason why she did not die was because of the help of her coterie, Clyde, arriving just before those last few seconds elapsed. The very last time that Hestia put all semblance of faith and trust on anything but her coterie, death was the surety. The insurance policy against all of her foolishness was death. And here she is in the room filled with 4 very powerful members of the Chantry House. And she is once again alone, without any of her members of her coterie having the ability to get to her quickly, unimpeded. And with those thoughts of death, we will take a short, quick 10 minutes and be right back here at 16 after the hour. All right, sorry for the tardy, folks. Everybody back?
Yep.
I'm here.
All right. So, a quick gander into the notes, and this of being in a room with so many intrinsically, supernaturally skilled, learned, and strong members of the Chantry, Hestia manages to hold her composure. She manages just to put up the face that she wants to be seen. And that face is one of calm, despite the fact that very real and very accurately, she's a shark surrounded by dolphins, by porpoises, by killer whales. She is a predator surrounded by other stronger, meaner decidedly more vicious predators, and she presents the image that she is cool as a cucumber. Dusable doesn't rise to greet her. Ericho doesn't rise to greet her. Instead of making any physical contact, Dusable smiles. I am glad that my gamble paid off, that you returned to the fold. I had every hope that you would. Thank you for coming, Astrid. And as the breath that she was holding, that she didn't realize that she was, is released mentally, and there's some semblance of calm, we move to Clyde, who is anything else but calm. You are in the headspace and riding another individual as if they are your mount and you are heading into battle, because that's literally what it is they make their way through the restaurant, as they make their way through the space and head straight for the kitchen, not bothering to stop and wash their hands. They don their apron and head downstairs with a 10-quart plastic pan to gather supplies. In the doing, as they make their way through the restaurant, and Clyde is blind to what's happening around him and almost completely deaf to blue in his ear, remarking on this patron or that girl or that guy. All in all, taking in the fullness of the potentiality of flesh all about him. Clyde is a very calm person despite everything that's happening in his head at every moment of the day. Despite all the monstrous things he's done in the last year to protect those that he cares about, he's never willfully monstrous. He's never willfully that thing. And seeing the slabs of meat hanging in the cooler doesn't stir him like it would a normal person. A normal person would be freaking out. There's whole slabs of freshly slaughtered beef, and amongst those slabs of freshly slaughtered beef and pig and various other animals are 6 kindred hanging from meat hooks. And the only reason why he knows they're kindred is because there's no blood, there's no potato leaking. But they're hanging from meat hooks where they've been hung and allowed to dry and all but desiccate from the lack of blood and hunting. And the person that Clyde is riding looks towards them, then moves about his way as if he doesn't see them for anything except for slabs of meat.
I'm gonna say, hey Blue, is your time to chip in, then take the token.
What was that?
I'm gonna tell, hey Blue, it's your time to chip in and take the token out, the boss token.
What do you mean you want my time to chip in?
You said you were gonna help. Now help.
I am helping.
Well, I need to go and check the place out.
Well, you want me to leave you right here, and you think that's helping? Okay, fine. You know, it's your world, man. Hey, we got a plan. We got a deal. I'm gonna honor my deal. I'm gonna head first, and you're gonna stand up here by yourself. That's what you want.
Well, unless you want to check my 6, but you are checking everybody's 6, so I don't know how helpful that is.
You know what it's like to have a good luck charm? That's what I am for you right now. But okay, I'll leave you up here by yourself with all of these things moving about all around you. But okay, cool, by yourself. You want to be by yourself. You want me to head down to the building, I'll head down to the building. You're going to tell me twice. I know when I'm clearly not wanted, and your idea of help is definitely not what you really need right now. But okay, I'll leave you to it. And with that, the token grows cool. No sooner does the token lose roughly about 5 degrees of heat that you realize you stand out. Not only are you non-Asian, you're not Chinese, you're not Japanese, not Korean, Thai, Indonesian, Burmese. You are the only person talking to yourself. You're the only person here alone. And as soon as the presence, the feel of blue leaves you, one of the waiters comes over and wearing his black nitro gloves and dressed to serve. He smiles and he has far more teeth in his mouth than any human should. So, dead man, what you want?
Oh, the special, please.
You want the specialty, huh? Okay, we got a table for you. Come on right this way.
Okay.
He walks towards the middle of the restaurant and he motions towards the center table. It's a large table, especially for one person, but it can comfortably seat roughly 10. And he motions. Sit. Place of honor for you. It's good for you. It's good for your kind, dead man.
So, are you in the Sagat or Michelin or some of those?
Oh, we don't have any Michelin stars. No one likes Michelin stars. It's a waste of time. It's too much work. Sit. Be as welcome as we can help you to be.
No. I prefer something near the wall, you know.
If it was we'd have dishes of various liquids here for you. This is not about your preference. You are a guest of honor. Sit.
Okay.
The manager will be with you shortly. Don't touch anything else. And he walks away as if he's just scolded a small child. No sooner than you sit, than a few seconds turn into a few minutes, and the young lady, clearly the manager, walks over her hair in a severe bun, being held in place by hairpins, and her sleek pencil skirt hugging every curve that she has. And instead of sitting at the table, she stands at Clyde's right. I thought we had an agreement. Your kind were not to come here.
Oh, you know, I just have this impulse of coming and trying the fried rice.
Because you have broken our contract, because you have not come under the protection of Sun Che, because we believe in warnings, we will give your king, your prince, one final warning. And she smiles, and her mouth is suddenly twice as wide as it should be, and her eyes have a gleaming yellow glint to them. The other diners, the other people near at hand, start to stand. And as they stand, their clothes all seem ill-fitting, too small, too large, somehow just not right for their proportions all at once. You get a choice. Are you right-handed or left-handed? And with that statement, we slide along. So you walk back across the tatami toward the young lady the older lady at the back of the dojo, Alexander. What can we do for you? Alex, still there?
Yes. Sorry.
No worries. So what can we do for you?
Well, I haven't really been here, and I tend to try to visit the other dojos in Chicago. I'm from Hunt's BJJ, and I just wanted to check you guys out, in all honesty.
So you've come looking for education? You've come looking for challenge? Or have you come looking for blood?
Let's stick to education for now, but I actually would like to have a chance to spar one of your guys, if that wouldn't be too disrespectful.
If that's what you want, that's what you will have. And she stands up, and you realize that she really is just barely 4'6". And she clearly moves as if she's not quite the mid 70s, early 80s that her body would otherwise denote. She's a little too quick. She's a little too spry. There's no aches, there's no exhalations of pained movement. Right this way. Class, we have a special guest. A Mr. She motions with her hand towards you.
Hunt.
Mr. Hunt would like to spar with one of us. Who would like to help with his education? And a guy roughly about 5'6", 5'7", and all of maybe 175 pounds steps forward. It's a little pudgy, has a little paunch, but otherwise it's solid. He's wearing a full-on 80s headband tied in the back like he's Ryu or some other member of SNK, Neo Geo combat games. I'm Averin. Mr. Hunt, I'll be the one helping you learn something today. And he does a quarter bow and steps to the middle of the tatami as the other members of the school form a nearly perfect circle around you.
I stand opposite him and return his bow.
Instead of taking a stance, he reloads his arms and starts bouncing as if he's on Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I'll give you the first couple of how much you know. You okay with that?
Yeah, that's quite alright with me.
All right, let's get it on. And he's dancing, bouncing from foot to foot, staying just close enough where an easy half step forward or a kick would be even easier. What are you gonna do?
I think I'm just gonna approach him and start off with a simple cross check.
All right, give it a roll.
Old-fashioned 1-2 to see, just start off slow.
Okay, make it happen. Go ahead, roll strength and roll. Nicely done. Very impressive. Alexander moves with all skill and grace that his experiences have taught him. All of his mental preparation to harm and damage to another living entity. He throws up his left to parry or block the first offense and takes the second full onto his chin. Even with a pooled effort or an attempt to not seriously hurt his opponent, Alexander drops him. He goes down like a light switch being turned off. And Alexander, just as he was getting into the idea or the notion that it was mostly anticlimactic, Averin bounces back up. And the bruise that was left by the checked punch begins to fade. Oh, not bad, not bad. Okay, you got one pass. Is that all you got? Just boxing? Got something better in there?
Alright, that's interesting. That's a little weird. After that, I'm gonna try a flying knee.
Alright, dexterity and brawl, make it happen. Your flying knee, well timed and executed, and no less disastrously crushing to the person that it hits, he deflects. And you end up flying past him to his left, and he's still bouncing back and forth, and the bruising which had faded seems to have completely disappeared. All right, that's two. You got anything else left in that tank?
Well, while I do know basic boxing and Muay Thai, my specialty is BJJ, so you'd probably see a lot more of what I'm capable of if you came at me.
Oh, okay. You're done already? Okay, that's fine. That's cool. And he bounces left to right and blurs towards your midsection. What are you doing as he seems to drop his shoulders and aimed to crash towards your midsection. What are you attempting to do?
I'm gonna try to take control of his, like, crashing his fist into my midsection, or he like straight
No,
up shoulder checking me.
It's the setup for a takedown, looks like.
Oh, alright. In that case, I'm gonna try to turn his momentum against him and take him towards the ground instead.
Alright, make it happen. Strength and brawl.
Do I have to die for a grappling specialty?
Yes. You two crash and tumble together, and you realize that his takedown as you bring him to the ground was actually a setup as he fires off a couple of quick jabs. You easily absorb his human strength and still manage to push him towards the ground as he rolls away from you. You receive 2 jabs in that small exchange, and there's no way that any human should move that quick. What are you attempting to do at this point? Are you paying attention to the students around you? Or are you focused on making sure that he's unable to get any more attacks off?
I'm gonna focus on the fight for now, because I can always focus on the students after. I'm assuming that they're respectful enough not to interfere, so that's not quite an immediate danger to my person as much as a sparring partner from a brotherhood that seems to go all out when sparring. I might be wrong about any of those things, but that's my understanding so far. I am an outsider, so maybe it's a different set of rules applying to me. But so far, even though I'm not much of a detective, it is seeming like not only is there some supernatural or chemical enhancement going on here, they're not very subtle about it, which means either they don't care if I walk away with that information, or they don't intend to allow me to walk away.
That is a sound thought process and a sound stance to be up to have, because as you push him to the ground and he rolls up and away, what's your next action?
I'm gonna try to take him down and try to pin him to the ground with a headlock.
Okay. Make it happen. He struggles and you two roll, and you have him stomach down in a headlock, resting on the ground, because he seems intent to have taken it to the ground game. With you executing the headlock, was just a standard, simple, easy move. Instead of tapping out, he just struggles to keep you focused on him.
With that, I am going to kind of, because at this point I can feel if he starts to shake away from me, and I'm going to now take some glimpses around me to see what's going on.
You could have sworn that the circle was only semi-closed around you. You could have sworn that the circle was considerably larger than it is now. You could almost easily reach out with your foot and touch one or more of the students. It was a little bit wider before because there was room for your flying knee, there was room for your cross-check, there was room for him to have rolled past you. Yet now they're close enough that they're just outside the range of your height.
Well, that's interesting. I'm still gonna act like this is a sparring session though, and not do anything too aggressive, suspicious as that may be. I don't want to escalate the situation if it hasn't escalated, and I'm gonna try to move to a sleeper hold and try to finish this spar, trying to get him to tap out if I can.
Okay, go ahead and roll that nice maneuver, rolling from head to slipping your arms under and getting a full-fledged sleeper hold, which literally should be able to for someone to tap out versus having a neck or a vertebrae broken.
Oh, I don't know why I did.
He refuses to tap out, and in his refusal to tap out, with him just struggling just enough to attempt to have your focus on him, the other students sat upon you. They began kicking and stomping and otherwise attempting to beat Alexander into either jumping him into their gang or beating him into unconscious. And as the realization that he is in the center of a jumped on situation, with him being the one that's being jumped upon, we shift our focus to Dizzy. The first steps toward having a herd, the first steps toward actively as a member of the kindred community, whether directly involved in either sect or just an independent outlier of setting hooks and placing ties to the city firmly in the record books, as with lingering kiss, while it not only addicts the victim of it to the kiss itself, they will insatiably look towards retrieving that same feeling from you, and if not you, the first kindred they are able to get their hands on. What is Dizzy's course of action?
How do you mean?
Well, using a hammer to addict someone to you emotionally is a big step. It's like intent to propose or not, you bought the ring to engage yourself to the city. What are your actions with knowing what lies ahead for the coterie? You guys are planning to head down to Chinatown, the no man's land, as described by Blue as being a larger hell pit than the coterie's haven. There is a magical duel that Hestia is preparing to engage in. What are your actions for after hunting?
Well, she'll make sure that she has that guy's contact info, but not vice versa. And then she will go and with her other laying down roots, Vivi.
You've noticed that over the last week that her shifts have been slightly curtailed, but they don't seem to want to put more people on whatever this traffic watch that Vivi is taking part of. It has in fact disgruntled her some towards the idea that she had initially taken upon herself when taking the position. She wanted to do some good like her brother. She wanted to find out what happened to him, if possible, because she's heard several things. One of those several things is that Theus has their fingers in a lot of places. They act as middlemen for a lot of different agencies. They provide services for people who are in the know. And to be stuck here in a stupid truck watching traffic patterns and collating information, even though the computers do them mostly by themselves, is not necessarily that great for her spirits. Including especially being as last week, those two of the four that she managed to help capture left her with a very skeezed out feeling. Dizzy knows from a few exchanges over the last week that she's been, even though she's technically not supposed to, she's concealed carried since just before that incident, and now she openly carries, which is against the fine print of her contract. So making your way back to the van, you expect her to be in her typical usual funk, because at any point, if one of her superiors finds her open carrying, even though it's for her protection, she could be fired. Or at least dismissed.
And that would be no good for anyone.
Interestingly enough, she's curtailed her smoking some. She still smokes like a chimney when she begins smoking, but she doesn't take nearly as many breaks. So as you ease back towards the van, she's actually just leaving on her first break, and she steps out, stretches, and kind of sees you moving towards the van, towards the surveillance truck, because that's literally what the van is at this point. You know that's what it is. Hey, chica.
What's up?
You tell me, what's going on?
You know, not a whole lot. Just night after night, doesn't change.
Who are you telling? We got more bandwidth. Can you believe that?
That's good. You're gonna be live streaming soon.
No, it's all going into that stupid computer. They don't give us access to. I don't even. It's really not that fun. Yeah, I think you might be one of the few bright spots of my evening.
Well, I try. So, what are your plans here? I mean, you're kind of flaunting the rules now, aren't you?
Yeah, but realistically, I'd rather the bad guys in the area know that I will shoot them instead of them being surprised. You know, those other two almost made me shoot them, and they still kept trying to get away. So at least now you know what you're getting into when I come around here. And then I see why they, the first crew was robbed. This is not the best of areas. Are you sure you're gonna be okay?
You know, I do all right. They kind of just ignore me around here now.
That must be nice. I don't like to be ignored, but that'd be nice right now. I could swear that I saw another car circling.
Yeah, I try not to think about all the nefarious things that are going on around me.
So, we've been talking for a little bit. When are you going to either ask me out or tell me why you really come around?
I mean, I don't know. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Well, typically at this point, not that I have much experience with real friends, there's usually the ulterior motives come out right about now.
It's almost hurtful.
Really?
I mean, almost.
Come on, you're a pretty girl. And you live in this cesspit of an area. And you come around just before or just after something bad has happened. Now, I know I'm exciting and all, but no one is that exciting. Especially when I know what goes on around here.
Do you ever consider that maybe I'm the trouble magnet?
Nah. It's this eyesore of a van, and is the fact that we're here night after night, almost like clockwork. Even when they change when the shift starts by an hour here or an hour there, we're typically always here. They want us in this area for some strange reason. I still don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. All the locals know about the van. I'm surprised that you're even still here.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's not tactically smart. And of course, that's the whole point. I mean, everybody thinks that we're not tactically smart or they're not tactically smart. Lull everybody into a false sense of security.
They must be looking for something really specific here.
Yeah, they gotta be, considering that we can pull the same data. We'll hit the same data streams from almost anywhere in the area. Between all the cameras, all we need is the access point.
You should find out what they're looking for, then maybe it would make more sense.
I don't mind being fired for a reason. I don't want to be fired for being a snoop.
Yeah, you know, there's that whole snitches get stitches, no one wants to be a rat thing, but at the same time, you really want to be a soldier in a war that you don't understand?
It wouldn't be the first time. I told you I was in the service, yeah?
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're not gonna like out yourself that you were like Black Ops and doing like comic book wet work stuff or anything, right?
And the moment you say wet work, her eyes get big. Because that wasn't a secret that she shared, nor that she hinted at. But more so, it's not necessarily specifically about what Dizzy mentions, but the fact that the car that she said she noticed circling begins barreling at the both of you in the van with all due haste and speed.
I will move us out of danger.
And how so? Do you have celerity? Are you attempting to use any of your disciplines?
I would prefer not to, but I would also prefer not to explain getting hit by a car.
Okay. So are you using anything besides your sheer strength and dexterity to dive, leap, roll, or what have you out of the way?
Dizzy is not naturally very strong, so she'd probably use a little potence just to be able to move the bigger girl and herself out of the way, but other than that, if she doesn't have to do anything supernatural, but she would prefer not to.
Okay, so go ahead and roll your strength and athletics. If you have any specialty, add that, i.e. if you have dodge, evasion, or anything like that under your athletics, and add your opponent's dots to the roll.
Well, that'll be interesting.
All right. It will be most interesting entirely because the sheer fact that the car is barreling towards you with all due haste and intention to harm not only you but some of your best laid plans to subtly gain an upper hand and protect yourself, and by extension those who are connected with you, to get information as to where your crew, if they are still in the land of the living, whether they are living or not, angers you to the very core of what you are, and that being a child of Trio, a child of Bruja, has its own inherent risk. That being, once your anger is roused, that it may very well never end. In this particular case, you'll be surprised to roll your resolve and composure. If you score less than 2 successes, your fangs not only flick out and your visage shifts slightly ferally, but you will lose a semblance of composure and must hurt the authority in the situation, which is the 2 people behind the wheel of that car who had every intention of ramming you and Vivi.
Now, am I penalized by the Bruja vein on this roll?
Nope, not yet. If you fail, however, you have 2 successes. You are able to quick switch, and that fiery temper blazes through you really quickly like flash paper. However, you are able to muscle it back beneath the surface. The idea and hope is that that quick flash of sheer adrenaline-laced kindred fury did not catch her notice. But the car crashes into the van. The 2 people behind the wheel of the car begin crawling out of the windows because their doors are slammed shut from the impact. It is a very old school CUDA that has crashed into the van. They picked an old school car because of the sheer weight and metal behind it. They had every intention of splattering both you and Vivi. Vivi, however, due to her training, has already unholstered her firearm and is barking orders, but the crash of metal has a small deafening aspect to it. As you consider what your next few actions will be, Lucio, sitting across from Juanica with his fingers covered in various chickpea-like substances, the smell of fish, and the fact that you know what he actually looks like has a disconcerting effort. While everyone's afraid of the dark and the boogeyman, such as yourself and others of your ilk, there's something very, very not restive about knowing that beneath this seeming visage of the average, everyday man that Juanica is putting out, that you know that his face has pincers at the jawline. You know that he is wearing a balaclava with the mouth cut out because of his misshapen jaw. You know that those eyes, which seem a medium complected brown, are actually as red as an angry wolf's. And you know that his fingers have several extra joints and a clawed end where the nails would be. You ain't too happy. You start asking round about me. What do you want?
May I sit?
You paid for the time. Go ahead.
I take a seat at the table.
Is that all you wanted, to sit down and enjoy a meal with me?
No, although, if you'd like, we could share a meal.
He pushes a plate of fish towards you. It's not a fish that you're accustomed to.
In what way?
Well, you're accustomed to salmon and trout and maybe halibut. This is a flat fish that is captured from rivers in Africa. It is flat and has very fine scales, seemingly stacked one on top of another. And so it seems more eel-like than fish-like.
I take a small piece of it since it seems he's offering.
And it's surprisingly good. It's been smoked twice and stuffed with various spices and peppers and roasted over an open fire. It is an interesting texture because it's closer to red meat than most fish that you've partaken of, say maybe salmon or deep sea bass, but all the same. He rests his head on his hands in front of him, and the small particles of food all still smushed there, even visible now, are far worse with his actual hands if you were able to see them. So we broke bread. What do you want?
First, I'd like to apologize for what happened on that night. I wasn't there myself, but I was filled in on what happened, and I don't believe that you were treated fairly. And to that end, I'd like to try and make amends.
So you're gonna give me the broad that hurt my ghoul, or are you going to offer a place amongst the hounds, or both?
I don't think it's my place to decide who's a hound, unfortunately. So I guess that leaves only one option.
So where is she?
That is something I'm still working on. I came here to know what you wanted, mainly.
It's real simple. Initially, I wanted her life. Initially, I wanted to hurt her the way that she's hurt Mike. Initially, I wanted to take back from her what she took from my community. She filled them with fear. And I thought you guys were different. I thought your place was different. You had an opportunity to feed on us, and you didn't. And then you let that happen. And then the police rolled the place. And then the rumors that you all were working with Modius. And then it started with her and the African, and you guys taking and protecting each other without considering us. You're no better than Naomi at this point. You're no better than the One-Eyed King at this point. And now you say you want to make things right, but you won't tell me where she is because you don't know, which means the African has betrayed you again. And not just you,
The African's
but
dead.
all of us.
Simone is dead.
The fuck out of here. I haven't heard that.
Happened a few nights ago. We were ambushed. There's a lot going on with the shelter, the haven. I won't bore you with all the details, but I'll give it to you straight. We're being fucked from every possible angle you could imagine. And right now, we could really use someone like you to help. You're right that we failed, and all we can do is to try and do better. And that has to start somewhere, and I think that the best place to start is by connecting with the right people. I've heard about you. I've heard about how you help the homeless, how you help the downtrodden. I think you would be, or I would like you to be, our most natural ally. Unfortunately, events didn't pan out that way, and that's why I'm here, to try and fix that.
So the African is dead, and with him dead and unable to pay the balance of the check that he wrote. Are you guys working with Modius?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I'm not even sure who Modius is. Simone was making so many deals on the side without us even knowing that I honestly have no idea what's going on with him. But I'll tell you this. Whatever deals Simone had made without our knowledge, they died with him. So if he was working with Modius, then we're no longer affiliated with him.
Damn shame, I actually liked Carlisle too. I'm not gonna say yes. I'm not gonna say no. How about a definite maybe, provided you let me get my hands on the bitch that fucked over Mike? And put in a good word for me to become a hound. I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines while everybody else makes decisions that affect us, the homeless, the silent invisibles of the city.
I'll do what I can, but I'd like to ask you something. Are you aware of what happened that led to this tragedy?
Yeah, you had a young, newly created kindred set free on the homeless, like most of the other kindred of the city who think that we are free buffets for them all. It's an all-you-can-bleed festival as far as most of the other kindred are concerned.
It wasn't intentional. It was a mistake. And from what I was told of the event, she was a mistake.
Yeah, it's what everybody keeps saying. Mark says that I should turn the other cheek, that I should throw in with him. But why should I do that? He's already lost 2 of his special little Dalton sewer rats to you guys.
Tommy and Whispers.
Yeah, Tommy and Whispers. And if not for Khalid keeping us from acting, we'd be there at the Aragon right now rescuing Whispers. But Khalid wants to wait until he can speak with Sylvia to get him free.
Come again?
Khalid is waiting to get word back from Sylvia so we don't abuse the right of domain to get our hands on Whispers. She stole him and has him in her clutches at her oh so secret hidden haven at the Aragon Ballroom.
I take out a notepad and write that down.
What, you really didn't know?
There's so much that has been happening over these last few nights that it's been impossible to keep track of. But, Sylvia, that's the Tremere, right?
Yeah, she's part of the Chantry. I don't know if she's really blood Tremere or not, but she's the face of them out in the wild.
The same Sylvia that tried to kill Hestia.
Wait, she tried to kill one of yours? I thought one would be enough. She already has one of us. She just tried to kill one of yours too. She's just wilding out, isn't she?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's one good way to embarrass Dusable and prove he's not the man that he used to be.
Well, seems like she failed, evidently. Alright. I'll find Simone's child, and
Wait,
I can either...
she was his child?
I told you she was an accident.
Yeah, you didn't say. Certainly explains why he's all touchy about her.
Yeah. I'll find her, and I'll either bring her to you or tell you where she is.
Yeah, you need to do that. Because I'm not sure. I'm sure that you're not really thinking. But if you fuck me on this, I will fuck back harder. You just admitted that one of the hounds illegally embraced. And I don't mind not telling anybody, but if you fuck me on this, I will make sure you burn as well.
I mean, he's already dead.
Yeah, but you're not. And you knew. All of you all knew, didn't you?
I mean, I wasn't there. I found out afterwards. But I get it. Hey, consider it collateral.
Oh yeah, this is great collateral. Better than what I had planned for you.
Give me a few weeks. I'll probably be sooner though. And I'll give you her location.
We got a deal. What are the hounds?
One last thing before you go. Or before I go, I should say.
Yeah, what's that?
You have every right to take your vengeance upon her. But on a personal note, I do have a bit of a soft spot for those mistakenly embraced. So, do what you must, but consider letting her live. She might be a little more useful than she might seem at first. You never know.
He drops his mask and allows his real face to be seen. It is, while not as instinctually disgusting as Janice, it is definitely just as memorable. He definitively is nothing human. And he asks, is this the face of someone capable of kindness?
I think anyone's capable of kindness.
And as you rise from the table and head out of the restaurant, we will draw to a close with everyone in a most precarious of situations. Hestia sitting with the bulk of the highest ranking members of the Chantry House. Dizzy is sitting in the middle of an active crime scene, meaning mid-crime, not after the fact. Alexander is receiving an education or a jumping in for some Akashic gang. Clyde is at the center of a lesson to be made to Prince Jackson. And Lucio is leaving a very duplicitous situation. It was clear that while he paid for the meeting, he didn't pay for safety, and he gave Juanica, a being who is very, very vengeful, keys to enacting vengeance, at least politically, against the entirety of the coterie. With all of this in effect and hanging over the coterie's head, there is still the very real fallout of the plan that needs to take place the next evening. So lots of things, lots of pokers in the fire, a lot, and more to come. I want to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I look forward to seeing what the repercussions are next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks all. Good night.
Yikes. Oh man.